you ready to be provoked in your mind, inspired in your spirit, and stimulated to be a better you? Then get ready. TNT Talk, television's inspirational talk, starts now. Welcome to TNT Talk with your host, Bishop Dr. Tyrone Smith. And we are live for this episode of TNT Talk and My Money Talk as we acknowledge Financial Literacy Month. I am delighted to be with you on tonight. As I said, this is a live taping of our TNT Talk. And tonight I have my special guest with me. He is my guy. He is the one, the number one of all of my referral partners. I need you all to show some love for my guy, Mr. Daniel Mack from NFM Lending. Daniel,
Yes, sir.
here we are again, one more time.
Yeah.
The opportunity to be before our, just what we do instead of going back to, well, you know what? You got to do the intro. Well, actually, I can clip and come back in. Am I?
Continue going. Continue going. We can live. Continue going. It is unscripted. I work fast.
Well, we unscripted. We had a little technical difficulty there, but when you got the best producer in town, he knows how to make it work and get us back on course. So we're back on course again with my guy Daniel Mack from NFM Lending. And
Yes,
tonight,
sir.
being live, Daniel, I wanted to do this taping live because what we're going to talk about, I believe, is a very important, very intense conversation
Yeah.
given the turn of events that's happening with the administration,
Yeah.
how
Current
people
state
are
of the
looking
market.
at their money situation,
Yeah.
um, I think we need to do everything that we can to look at opportunities where we can help our platform
Yes.
to negotiate and navigate these murky waters of the money.
Yep. Yep. And the way that our president has been running the economy lately, there's been a lot of uncertainty with
Mhm,
the dollars that are coming into households
mhm.
and how they're controlling their finances and income. There's a lot of scared folk running around. They just don't know when tomorrow they're going to
What
wake
a
up
word.
and
What a word.
with a pink slip, saying, "Hey, don't come to work, turn your keys in, go find another job." And to that point, we've heard or seen a lot of different programs starting to surface where they're trying to give out like assistance or relief to
Right,
those folks
right,
who are
right, right.
who are not able to make their mortgage payment from being laid off or relocated to another job, if you will. And so, for that purpose, that's why we kind of trying to choose to talk about that topic tonight as it relates to the financial literacy with the market right now.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And so the reason why I wanted to go live, we normally do a taping of the show and then we release it.
Hmm.
Tonight I wanted to do live because I want to open up the airwaves so that as we're having these conversations live, we want you, the general public, to feel at liberty to either come on the platform and ask your questions, talk to us directly, or you can go right into the chat and share your questions in the chat, and we will address your questions in real time so that you can get real answers. Because we are definitely going to plow the ground and we are going to talk about mortgage, and we're going to talk specifically tonight about a cash out opportunity. And there are a lot of different angles. And I wanted to bring someone that I knew had real experience because
Yeah.
what I've noticed, Daniel,
Hmm.
the general public have been left to think of how this actually works.
That's correct.
So many of them are thinking that a typical cash out type of opportunity automatically means that give up the rate that I have and
Hmm.
and I automatically restart the clock,
Hmm. Hmm.
which many don't know that that's that's only half true.
Yeah, that's right.
That's only half true.
That's right.
And there is a way to structure it so that they can win and
Mhm,
they do not have to start all over
mhm,
from the beginning in order to do it.
mhm,
So
mhm.
since we're already out here and we've already cut the cord and we pulled out from the dock,
Yeah,
we already in the water. Let's
yeah,
talk about it.
yeah. So,
Let's talk about it.
well, we can just jump right in. So, what I've been seeing or experiencing, just more recently is, there's a shortage of dollars that are coming into the household,
Mhm,
whether
mhm.
that's through inflation, whether that's through higher prices at, the gas pump, additional taxes that are being put out there on the American people. It seems as though that everything else has went up, but the paychecks. And so, for those people who have the home situation, and they've stayed in their home throughout this duration of time, you have started to build up equity, and equity is where it's going to be the difference of how much your home is worth versus how much you owe on the mortgage balance.
Now, let's not, I want to take it a little slow and I want to make sure for the home buyer who may not know mortgage language,
Sure, sure,
let's make sure we don't lose anyone in this narrative.
sure,
Okay?
absolutely.
So equity. Let's talk equity.
Hmm.
Let's
Hmm.
talk what equity is
Yeah.
and then how equity actually grows in a home.
That's right. So, example with numbers, you buy a home for, let's just say, $500,000,
Got
just
you.
as a round
Got you.
number,
Got you.
and you pay down that mortgage over a 10-year period to, let's just say, $300,000. That means you've paid off $200,000 from the original 500 grand.
Mhm.
There's a balance left on the home of 300,000 that you still have to pay.
Okay.
Okay, so the difference between that 300 and 500 is 200,000.
Got you.
Now, you can borrow from yourself or from that money that's left in that $200,000 pot,
Mhm.
and you can extract that money to put it towards, debt consolidation or, and supplementing your income. If you fall short a couple of months, you'll have some money that you can kind of pull from. And so the calculation on that would be 80% of whatever the home is worth, you can take out as far as a cash out
Wow.
refinance.
Wow.
So if we have a calculator, I'd like to pull up an example.
Mr. Producer, if you can you pull up a calculator? Because I want the live audience to kind of see it. Obviously, Daniel can do it from his
Yeah,
phone, but I'd
yeah.
like for them to be
Would they
able to
be
see
able to
this.
see this calculator here?
Can you pull that calculator in so that they can see it for us? Because if that's the case, then that would be great. Wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, at some point you want to, type in the numbers here. So, let's just do 500,000, okay, in real time, okay, 500,000, and we're going to times that by 80%. Just type in
So
80,
point 0.8.
yep,
Yep.
percent, and hit that percent sign right there.
No, no, no. I put it in as a decimal. I
Okay.
so go back,
So go
put that
back.
five.
Yep. Let's do 500,
Yep,
500,000,
1,000, yep,
and do times.
times point 0.8, and there it is. So that's
All right, so
80%.
that's 400,000, right?
Yep, yep.
So your mortgage balance is now at 300, so minus 300,000 from this number.
So minus 300,000 from the 400,000 gives us 100,000.
Okay, so $100,000 worth of cold hard cash you have access to, and you can pull this money out
Really?
in one lump
Just
sum.
like that's the actual calculation
That's
right
the
there.
actual calculation.
So
That's
a
correct.
person could take what they actually owe on the home,
That's right.
you multiply that by point 0.8,
Yep. 80%.
and you get that number,
Hmm.
and then you subtract
Whatever you owe on your current
whatever
mortgage.
you owe,
Mm,
and that amount of money is available in that home right now
yes.
for an individual to actually draw from.
Yep. And so with that number, so since we're dealing with round numbers, the rule of thumb here to in order for you to calculate how much your closing costs, because your escrows, your taxes and everything have to
Okay.
be re-recorded.
Okay.
A
Okay.
mortgage has to be re-recorded. So there's fees involved with that. But
Okay.
the rule of thumb here is 3%. So I would times this 100,000 times
So
3%.
so do times 0.03. Yep.
Mhm. So that's $3,000. So you would subtract that 3,000 from 100 grand, you would have 97,000.
97,000. Mhm,
Okay. And
mhm.
so from that 97,000, you would come to the table and you would get a check for, let's say, just around between 95 and 96, because there's some other small
Admin
fees,
fees and things like that. Mhm.
yeah, certain
Yep.
fees that come out.
Yep.
So about $95,000 that are sitting in your home in equity. And the reason why you should be taking that right now is because everybody they're doing other things to try to get access to certain monies that they have. I saw a podcast and I saw a video the other day where, someone had lost their job and they were talking to their financial planner and they said, well, based on the money that I have right now and my current bills coming in, I'm not working. How long can I survive? And that person said, financial planner said, well, I give you 6 months before it's all over.
Oh,
So I'm saying that to
wow.
say,
Wow. Wow.
if you have the ability to utilize your home that you work so hard for, you've been making the payments on time, all of a sudden you're in a position where you lost your job and you don't have the means to kind of go
Right.
straight to
Right.
another
Right.
job that's been paying you that high of a salary. Some of those people that lost jobs anywhere between 150 to $200,000. And so your lifestyle has already been adjusted to that, and so you can take out some money just to kind of float you for 6 months as you kind of start to recover and get into another job position. You can kind of use some of that money to kind of work your way through that scenario.
And let me also interject in that scenario because as the insurance guy, there's two places that we come in that's very important in this transaction.
Hmm.
Because in the refinance, we also take a look at how we can look at the debt to income ratio and look at where we can manage some of that money and the debt
Hmm.
to really make it lucrative as they're coming to the table
Yeah.
as cash out. So
Yeah.
we would actually take a look at the homeowner and see if we can now run a homeowner quote to reduce the premium,
Hmm.
which would lower the debt to income ratio in the scenario.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The second thing is the mortgage protection piece because now what we've got to do is we got to make sure that the client understands that the old insurance used to operate one way. That one way is that policy only activates when you die.
Hmm.
Well, now with the newer policies activate and they have this thing called living benefit.
Okay.
Now, the living benefit feature within a policy allows an individual to draw from the policy while they're alive instead of when they die.
Correct.
Now, there are parameters that come along with that that allows them to trigger being able to tap into that policy.
That's right.
So what would happen, you have 3 different categories.
Hmm.
You have chronic illness,
Hmm.
you have critical illness, and then you have terminal illness.
Okay.
All 3 categories allow you to draw from the policy while you're alive.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
Now, here's what's beautiful about the scenario that you're talking about a cash out. The goal of the cash out is to put money in your pocket
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
deal with things that are going on.
Yep. Absolutely.
However, to add even more of an opportunity to put cash in your pocket, what if an individual were able to get a mortgage protection policy, which is really nothing more than a term life policy, but it's specific to the mortgage.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
way it works is we look at the term that is left on the mortgage
Hmm.
and we look at how much is left on the mortgage.
Hmm.
We then pattern that mortgage protection on that particular mortgage. So
Yeah.
let's say in
Whatever
the
the balance may
scenario,
be.
right? So
Hmm.
let's say in the scenario was 300,000 that was left. So what we do, we either target the 300,000
Hmm.
and then we do a policy based on the term that is remaining,
Hmm.
and then we make sure that there is communication between the agent and the client so that if by chance the categories chronic, critical, or terminal
Hmm.
happens to the individual,
Hmm.
now instead of having to go back to refi,
Hmm.
now they can actually pull that money right out of that policy.
That's very
Now,
nice.
guess what's interesting? The same ratio. that
Mhm,
80% that you were talking about,
mhm, mhm,
most of the chronic, critical, and terminal
mhm.
start at about 80% that they can draw out.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah,
So can you imagine
it's a
an
double whammy.
80? Exactly.
Mhm,
So what if in the new scenario, we come to them and we say, "Hey, I want you to meet with our referral partner, Daniel Mack. He's going to take you through this cash out."
mhm,
You take them through the process. Now remember, you just put money in their pocket.
mhm, mhm,
We then come and say, now what you're going to do is the 97,000 in the scenario that you just did.
mhm,
Here's what we're going to do. Mr. Mrs. Client, what we want to do to ensure that you don't fall back into this situation and you will continue to gain equity in your home
mhm,
and then put yourself in a situation that if something should happen, you're going to be able to draw money from another well
mhm.
that you have.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a portion of this money. We're going to get you approved for a mortgage protection policy
Mhm.
that you would be able to draw another bucket of money
There you go.
that would put them in a wonderful position.
Yeah.
Now, in this conversation, because ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do as Daniel and I are having these conversations and scenarios, what we're going to do, we're also going to talk from some perspectives and scenarios of what you can actually do
Mhm.
in several different scenarios to kind of help yourself through this situation.
Yeah.
So in this particular scenario, being able to do a cash out and
Mhm.
then down the road, if something should happen, that you'll be able to draw the money out of the policy. Well, Daniel, many of my clients don't even know that they could actually draw money from that policy and use that money to do some other
That's
things
right.
that would really secure themselves
Mhm.
in their situation.
Yeah.
That's why having a great mortgage person,
Mhm.
having a great financial fiduciary in your back pocket
Mhm.
to help you negotiate these things are going to become the norm.
Yeah.
Like you must have it now because there are certain conversations that you need to have. I want to stop here and I want to make sure that you all, if you have questions, I want you to go to the live chat right now and you can post your questions in real time. Myself and Daniel are right here to answer your questions because we're taping live and we want to make sure that you get an opportunity to share your questions in real time.
Yeah. So,
Let's go a little
yeah,
deeper.
let's go a little bit deeper.
Let's go a little bit deeper.
So one of the things that I just kind of like always like to stress, you want to try to take advantage of doing this possible scenario cash out refinance while you're still active, while you still have
Yes.
gainful employment.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to draw and have everything verified before something bad happens. Now would be the time for you to, take these steps to kind of set yourself up for the next 6 months to a year before something could get even possibly worse than it is right now.
Mm.
Another caveat to this would be, you have current debts that are already on credit.
Right.
And
Right.
once you look at how much you're paying on those particular debts as far as the interest rate goes, car payments are, very high. Depending on your credit score, you could have upwards of 15 to 20% of a car note.
Right.
And, an interest rate on your car note, as far as credit cards are concerned, you can have 30% on your credit card that's due and you have a balance on that. Most Americans have a larger balance on their credit card right now. So just ask me how I know. I see it every day. You have student loans out there. Those student loans are pretty high. Some people want to pay off their student loans. But I say all of this to say the best way to access the money and the cheapest way to access the money is with today's market rates. Now, of course, market rates have been fluctuating anywhere between, 5.875 all the way up to 7.25.
Right.
It depends
Right.
on where you come in at as far as your credit rating, 600, 620, 680, 700. Those credit ratings matter, and I can say right now, it's nothing more important right now than having a good credit score when it
Mhm.
comes time to making
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
moves and
Yeah.
putting yourself and your family in a better position. You want to have your credit scores looking as clean as possible because you want to be able to benefit from the best lowest rate that you can possibly get. Now, with all that said, if the credit card is at 30%, if the car note is at 20%, student loans are at 10%, 10%, personal loans are at 20, 25%.
Right. Right.
Let's look at your house. What percent would you get on your house with a cash out refinance? Well, the market rate, let's just say you have a 6% market rate right now. Well, all of that is much, all of those debts are much higher than your mortgage rate right now. If it's going to go from 3% to a 6%, well, look how much money you still saving on the same debts that you can consolidate within that cash out
And look at
refinance.
how you could take that money, pay off that
That's right.
specific debt.
You pay them off.
And by doing
Mhm.
so, that interest rate that you were paying for that particular thing is now gone.
Yep.
You've now reduced your debt to income ratio.
Mhm.
You will
Mhm.
elevate your credit
That's right.
and put yourself in a better scenario because now you're not stressed with that particular thing
Mhm.
that you were paying because you just paid it off.
That's right, and to talk to that, if you were paying, let's just say $30,000 on your car note and the rate was at 20%, by the time you finish paying for that car note, you probably would have
Oh my
paid
God, we ain't gonna talk about that.
60,000 for a $20,000
Yes,
vehicle
indeed.
just because of interest. So if you cut that off at the legs, at the knees, and you pay it off because you have now a cash out refinance, well, look how much money you've saved over those years already in interest while you're still acquiring that property. So, you want to think about it from a savings, a total savings point of view, and not just say, oh, but the interest rate is going to go from 2% to 6%. Well, why does that matter when you already paying
Let's
30% on
address
that
that.
bill?
I wanna also address that too, because obviously in my position, um, beyond just being a bishop and just being influential in the area of money, one of the things that concerns me is when I hear that specific narrative.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
concerned about the rate that I have
Mhm.
because I got my house at this rate.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing that we cannot do, we cannot look at the rate that we have and then jail ourselves
Mhm.
in situations because the rate that you have doesn't mean anything if you get ready to lose that house, lose that car, you get ready to lose
That's
the
right.
credit, you get ready to lose the credit that you have.
Yep.
They getting ready to foreclose on it. What good
They're
is
gonna take it all.
a 3% rate if the 3% rate that you're holding on to while you got that equity in your home
Mhm.
is now holding you hostage to getting out of the debt so you can keep the house.
Yeah, and that's the
How is
whole
that?
point. The whole point is to clear some of the stuff off your plate.
Exactly.
And using your asset, which is your home, you can clear a lot of stuff off your plate, which can kind of give you a fresh start. Yeah, you'll have a little bit of higher of an interest rate, but you'll be have saved 20 to 40, $50,000 in
Daniel,
the
they
process.
don't see that, okay, the rate's going to go up. Yes, the rate will go up. The mortgage payment's going to go up.
Slightly.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
slightly. Yeah.
But here's what they don't see. But the money that you just took out,
Hmm.
the car
Hmm.
you pay off,
Hmm.
debt comes down.
Yeah.
Credit card
Yep.
you just paid off,
Yep.
debt comes down.
That's right.
The other whatever bills,
Mhm.
right? You pay them.
Yeah, you
The
get a
debt
breath
comes
of
down,
fresh air.
right? But now watch this.
Hmm.
You know that increase that they're concerned about
Hmm.
in the mortgage when it goes up?
Yep.
Well, if you just put more money in their pocket by allowing them, because they're going to be smart consumers and
Hmm.
they're not going to go buy or go on a shopping spree and go buy Louis Vuitton and Gucci and
Hopefully
Versace,
not. Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
they're going to use the money wisely and they're going to pay down what they owe,
That's
right?
right. Hmm.
Annual. If they pay down what they owe, won't they have more money to take care of that mortgage?
That's right. That's absolutely right. And on the flip side of that, if you think about it, when people tell me all the time, they say, "Hey, Mr. Mack, my payment is going to go up on my mortgage if I do a cash out refinance." Well, guess what? Your payment is already up. If you think about it, because yeah, your payment is one set amount right here, but think about all of the other bills you're paying on top of just that mortgage payment that's
And,
supposed to be
and
low already.
when you're late on all of those different things,
There's extra
you're
surcharges.
paying the fee.
Yeah. And so from a holistic approach, you're already paying a higher mortgage because guess what? All of that stuff you're paying for is coming into the house anyway.
And then let me also add this on to this conversation. Many of our prospective clients, the viewers that are watching TNT Talk tonight, they don't even know that unfortunately, because of what is happening with
Mhm,
this administration
mhm.
and the things that they're doing, they are causing the taxes
Yeah,
to go up in the various states of
yeah,
the union.
yeah.
When the taxes in your particular union where you live, when they go up, unfortunately, one of the adverse things that happens is the taxes on your home go up.
That's right.
When your taxes go up, ladies and gentlemen, care how good of a homeowner you are. I do not care how financially literate you are.
Mhm,
I do not care how long you have had your job.
mhm,
And I don't even care about how much money you have in the bank.
mhm.
None of those things are going to stop the taxes from increasing on that house.
That's right.
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing stops that. When the taxes go up, unfortunately, you have to pay it. Where is it coming from? It typically will come from the escrow of the house
Mhm.
that you just got, and you can't stop that. Now, let me also add this in. Ladies and gentlemen, you do know as we're sitting live right now having this discussion, we have had wildfires in California. We have had tornadoes through the Midwest panhandle. We have had floods in the Louisiana panhandle and in Florida.
Mhm,
And all throughout the mid Atlantic region, there are all types of adverse things that are happening in real time right now.
mhm.
Daniel, with every occurrence that is happening right now, the insurance companies are now struggling to now pay the claims of these individuals that are filing based upon the insurance that they have.
100%
Now,
true.
because of that, if they are trying to figure out how we're going to pay this money, and an insurance company is in business to make money.
Mhm,
Well, how are they going to substantiate themselves for the number of claims that are actually being paid out to those individuals who have filed claims because of these catastrophes?
mhm,
How are they going to maintain? I'm going to tell you how they're going to maintain. They're going to raise your premium, ladies and gentlemen.
mhm.
They're going to raise your auto premium. They're going to raise your homeowner premium. And because the rates of the homeowner and the auto are going to go up, here again is another scenario where an uncontrollable is going to happen where you are left to pay the increase.
That's right.
That increase does not matter what car you drive. It
Mhm,
does not matter how long you have been with that insurance company. And I know you've heard all of these myths, and I know they're telling you all of these things that, your rate's not going to go up because you've been with that insurance company for 10 years.
right.
And because your car is pretty and because it's paid off, that your rate's not going to go up. Well,
Mhm.
I'd like to tell you, being in this business, that your rate's going to go up.
Yep.
I'm so sorry to tell you. Now, there is some factors that are going to determine where you're going to fall in the line of that increase. But I'm telling you now, you're going to feel the increase because the insurance company is in the business to make money. Now, why are we having this conversation? We're having this conversation because it's Financial Literacy Month.
That's
The
right.
goal of financial literacy is the second word, literacy,
Yeah.
to be intelligent,
Yep.
to understand and to negotiate how you're going to handle yourself in the matters of money. And where matters of money used to be one way or maybe two, now we've got to diversify our thinking. We've got to diversify our portfolio. We've got to now act like that we're going to ask questions and stop pretending like you know everything because you don't.
Yeah.
And please stop listening to people that never had the money that you have the house you have, or the influence you have with the money that you have, and going to try to tell you what to do with your money, your house, your car, your credit card, and they don't have it. How does a person who has no experience now become experienced to tell you what to do?
That's right. That's
How does
right.
that work?
That's right.
Gave you the degree to now say that, hey, this is what you need to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because of that, we got to go to commercial.
That's where we got to
We
go.
got to go to
Yeah,
commercial.
yeah, we'll be back.
Listen, we're going to come back because we got more deeper things to talk about in this conversation.
Yeah.
You are live with TNT Talk with your host, Bishop Dr. Tyrone Smith, and my guy, Daniel Mack from NFM Lending. We'll be right back.
Buying a home. That's a big step. A home is one of the most important investments you'll ever make in your lifetime. So, way to go, you. All right, so you've gone through the endless paperwork, signed more documents than you ever knew existed, and finally got the keys. Now you're settling into your new home, and maybe it's occurred to you by now, you're now in about 50 times more debt than you've ever been in before. And hey, that's not a bad thing at all. Experts say mortgage debt is among the best kinds of debt to have, but it is debt all the same. As long as you keep making those mortgage payments on time every month, you should be good to go, right? Here's the thing though, there are certain events that could happen to hamper or eliminate altogether your ability to keep up with those mortgage payments, leading to financial stress, foreclosure, or even bankruptcy. It's a good idea to educate yourself about what your options are to protect yourself from unforeseen circumstances. So let's do that. Larry and Mary here are twins. At 30 years old, each of them buys a $250,000 home on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Their payments are set at $1,500 per month. Mary decides to protect her mortgage with what is known as a mortgage protection plan. Super creative name, right? She gets a 30-year plan in place to cover her 30-year mortgage at $250,000 of protection. Larry, on the other hand, decides to spend that money on a subscription to the Cookie of the Month Club. Way to go, Larry. As the years pass, both Larry and Mary marry. Not each other, they're twins. That would be super weird. They start families, get promotions, and all that good stuff. One day, Larry chokes on the double pistachio chocolate chip from his Cookie of the Month Club and sadly dies. This is actually doubly sad because the money he was spending on that cookie club could have been funding his mortgage protection plan that he never got. So Larry's wife is now stuck trying to make mortgage payments on her own, which she can't do now that the family's income has been cut in half. She slips into foreclosure and the family loses their home, all because Larry had to have his cookies. Now, if he would have gotten the mortgage protection plan that Mary has, Larry's family would have received the full $250,000 and a tax-free check from their mortgage protection plan. The home would be paid off in full with money left to spare. In addition, if something goes sideways with Mary's health, like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, her mortgage protection plan can be tapped into while she's still living, giving her crucial money to help pay the mortgage, or any other bills for that matter, while she's sick and out of work. Makes a lot of sense, right? Moral of this story, don't be a greedy, cookie-eating monster like Larry. If you have a mortgage and you're making monthly payments, do the smart thing and protect that investment with a mortgage protection plan. You'll rest easy knowing that your most prized assets are protected. And hey, those cookies were just going to go straight to your hips anyway.
Welcome back to TNT Talk with your host, Bishop Dr. Tyrone Smith, with my guy, Daniel Mack from NFM Lending. We've been having a very engaging conversation about mortgage, about cash out, because again, in this current climate, we have to really look at our money situations
Yeah.
and try our best with everything that we can using real sagacity, good judgment in
Hmm.
how we're going to manage a lot of what's going on. You brought up a point in the commercial and you talked about things that we used to do 10 years ago. I want
Yeah.
you to just say what you said
Yeah.
when we were in the commercial to the audience because they didn't hear it, but
Yeah.
I love what you said.
So, doing business now these days, especially with the knowledge, how much knowledge we have access to at our fingertips, AI is available now to us. It's no longer doing business the same way we were doing it 5 years ago, COVID, or 10 years ago when things were kind of going that way. But this is a new age that we're in. And if you're not adapting to what's happening right now in real time, then you're going to get left behind and then you'll be wondering why you cannot keep up. Well, it's because you haven't decided to educate yourself a little bit more about any of this, especially when it comes to insurances, escrows, mortgages, real estate. These are some of the most solid ways to make money these days. And I'm always going to be able to recommend that over any
Yeah.
other vehicle right
Yeah.
now. Because and with insurances, everybody needs insurance. You're gonna have to pay for it. How many insurances do we pay for? And I have conversations all the time with my clients, my friends, my family, And one of the things that I always bring up is, the fact that we don't use our health insurance. And this is not, I'm not going to stray too far off the topic, but the health insurance piece is, hey, we pay so much in health insurance, especially in our community. And guess what? None of us uses it.
Mm.
None of us uses it. And then we running around here with all of these problems. We got mental problems. We have, health, physical problems. But yet we stay paying when that paycheck comes, we stay paying
Wow.
$400,
Wow.
for
Wow.
mental
Wow.
health insurance, physical health insurance.
Wow.
And yet we will sit at home and drink some ginger ale, thinking that's going to work,
Not
and eating chicken noodle soup. Whole time you about to have a stroke. You see what I'm saying?
We got a question in the studio.
So I just, it goes hand in hand. You paying all of this money for these insurances. You gotta start educating yourself. You gotta start using what you're being covered with. And that's a great point when it comes to insurances.
And we definitely, I think we do need to be more wiser. I mean, why not use what you have?
Yeah,
And if I could kind of make that even clear, if you have a house, why not use it?
that's right. That's what I'm saying.
Why not
Question in the
use it?
studio. Question in the studio.
So we got a question in the studio and want to give the studio audience an opportunity to address us.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your question.
As a first time home buyer, can it be an investment property at first?
Good. So the question was, as a first time home buyer, can you buy an investment property first? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Great question.
yeah, absolutely a great question. So, as a first-time home buyer, you can buy whatever you want to buy. It doesn't have to be a primary residence. You can buy an investment property for your first piece of real estate, and you have a lot of young buyers that are doing that, where they're taking some of the money that they were inherited, that were given to them by a family member that maybe passed away, or life insurance payout,
Life insurance
and
payout.
they
Yeah.
are taking that money and buying an investment property right off the top, and they're using that as passive income. A lot of times we hear about passive incomes and additional ways to make money. Well, if you go ahead and slap 20% down, 15% in some cases, but 20% down on an investment property, and it's turnkey and ready to go, you can easily turn around and put a tenant right in that property and start generating monthly income or passive income on that property. So the money is not just wasted. You didn't just throw it away. It went into buying that investment property for you. And in some cases, you can fix it up a little bit, making sure that it's livable and habitable. And you make some passive income on that. And you do that, let's just say, 3 to 4 times over with 3 different properties, or, multi-unit, you could be making anywhere between 25 to $5,000 a month in passive income, and you don't even own a home yet.
Wow.
So, that's a,
Wow.
that's a good way to
That
kind
was a
of give.
wow. So in the scenario, they themselves don't even own a home,
Hmm.
but because that first home is actually an investment property,
That's right.
they've actually created a revenue stream
That's right.
before they even started owning a home.
That's correct.
Wow.
And you
That's
use that home to finance your lifestyle.
Mm.
That's
wow.
what I'm saying.
Second question.
So
Second
there's a
question.
second question. Go ahead. Second question.
It's a two-part question.
Okay.
So the first part of the question is, can you do a cash out on an investment property? And the second part is, can I buy another property and still benefit as a first-time home buyer?
Okay. So
Wow.
two-parter.
That was
Just to
loaded.
be clear, can
That's
you
loaded.
buy property? I'm sorry, can you give it to me one more time? Just the first part?
Can you do a cash out on an
Cash out
investment
On
property?
investment.
on your
Okay.
investment property.
So yes, and for my investors out there who have properties, whether that's 1 or 10, you can do a cash out refinance on your investment property at 75% loan to value of that property. And all you have to do is
Wow.
hold it for 12 months or 1 year
Really?
before you can do a cash out refinance on that investment property. So let me give you an example, because I know people love examples. $200,000, right? So you find a home, and it's an asking price of, let's just say, $50,000. Okay, you buy the home for 50,000. You put some repairs in it, You put about another 30,000 into it.
Got
So
you.
you're into it right now for 80,000.
Got you.
When you put it on the market and you get an appraisal, the after repair value comes back, let's just say 225.
Got you. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you've just made money, well, basically doubled your money, maybe at
Yeah, because
200%.
in that calculation, Mr. Producer, so what you would do,
Hmm.
um, do that 80, just do subtract 225,000.
Yep. 225,000.
So that number, they got $145,000 that they've
That's right.
made off of that house.
That's right. So here's the caveat. Here's the beautiful part. $145,000 is just your profit. However, after 12 months, you don't have a mortgage on that property. So you can take the full 145 because you don't owe anybody else at that point. So sometimes when people do a flip, they will take a hard money loan. And so if the hard money loan is, let's just say 30,000 or $40,000, that's the only person you have to pay back first before you can take the rest of the money. But
Okay.
if you use your own money and don't take a hard money loan and you just investing in the property, your whole $80,000, well, now it's up at 225 as far as the profit. That whole 145 you can take out. But you had to go
Whoa.
to, this would
Wow.
be at, is
Wow.
this 75% or is this 80%?
That was 75. That was a
75%.
75%. Yeah.
So you don't owe anybody. After 12 months, 1 year, you can take out 145 from that house. And guess what? You still have 25% left in equity in that property.
Wow.
So they
Wow.
won't let you take out 100%, else you'll be getting a
And
check for 225.
that's specifically for investor properties.
Investors,
So
yeah.
like people who are landlords who have homes, things like that,
That's
stuff like
right.
that. Got you.
Multiple homes. You
Got
have
you.
investors who
Got
are
you.
just, have homes just sitting around. This is a opportunity for you all to take some of that money out and to put it into another property or three or five. At the same time, you could take some of that money out and you can buy two more properties, put down 20%, turnkey, of course, and get into those properties and start making some passive income. But if you're
And I
buying,
also, as you're saying that too, I just thought of something. I want to advise all of my viewers who do have investment properties that you are using them as rental properties. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not use a standard homeowner insurance policy on that home.
yeah, we ran into that too a couple times. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
please,
we have.
please do
Yeah.
not do that because, ladies and gentlemen, according to the loan that you took out, number one, that is an improper insured home
Mhm.
because that is not your primary resident. Right. Your primary resident is the resident that uses a standard homeowner insurance policy. If you are using that policy on a secondary property, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, you're putting yourself in a very adverse risk.
Mhm.
And you're also in a possibility of uh, really reneging on the loan because that home is not properly insured. And so the bank can now impose and foreclose on that property because of that, just because of that policy.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's illegal. You
Yeah.
cannot do that.
Yeah.
And then the other part, which is even more sadder, if they were to get a dwelling or landlord uh, policy on that property,
Yeah.
many of them don't even know that affixed in those policies is a feature where they can draw from that policy
Mhm.
in the event that they don't have tenants in their property.
That's right. That's
There's
right.
monies that are actually there
Mhm.
that while you are dealing with renovations and you can rent it for whatever reason, you can actually draw money
Mhm.
out of that policy to cover your expenses while you have no tenants in that property.
That's right.
And believe it or not, many people that I've spoken to didn't even know that.
Yeah. And to that point as well, it just if you're thinking about, hey, if I take money out, how would I pay that back? Well, think about it. If you have a tenant in the
Yes.
property, then it
Absolutely.
automatically will pay the mortgage for you.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, the investors or the landlords are making sure that you set the rent high enough so that it offsets not only the mortgage, but it puts some positive money in your pocket. And a sweet spot for investors that I've dealt with in my experience, they want to make at least $500 in profit on top of whatever their mortgage payment is, for
Right.
them to feel like that investment is worth it. So all you got to do is, hey, find properties in areas where you can charge $500 extra, and there you go. You have your monthly payment, taken care of by your tenant, as well as making $500 per tenant each month. And then you still have a large lump sum that you're taking out as well to put towards other things and do other things with your personal stuff as well.
Hey, I want to ask a question because in the city where we grew up in, obviously we're not living there now, but we do a lot of business there in the city of Baltimore.
Yeah.
They had these programs where you could buy a home for $1,
Yeah.
and it became very popular. Can you talk about that? Because
Yeah.
there's some things that people really needed to know.
Yeah.
And because we had this conversation, I just think it would be great for us to insert that in right here
Yeah.
because people really need to understand the parameters of what is the dollar house deal.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, that was social media that was blowing that up, being viral like that. 'Cause everybody hopped on it for like 2 weeks, and then after they found out what the ramifications on the requirements were,
Died.
we didn't hear about it at all anymore because first of all, you gotta have money in the bank, folks. You can't just buy a dollar house, right, and expect to just not fix it up and not have it livable in a certain amount of time after you acquired it. You're gonna start getting fines on it on the house if it's not livable and it's just sitting vacant.
Yeah.
So, once the requirements came out and people started reading the fine print and not making it such a TikTok sensation or an IG thing, they started backing off of it,
Yeah.
because, as a lender, as a state lender, I also look at the different programs and I start to kind of peel back, the reading and the fine print all the time to see, do I have any clients currently that might benefit from these programs, and how can I
Sure.
be a
Sure.
resource for them?
Sure.
And so that's what I do. I mean, I look at the fine print because most people just don't want to read. We in an age where you scrolling social media all day, and you just don't want to read any fine print. But that's where you get held up at. And I get 1,000 calls asking me about certain things, and literally what I do now is to per my last email. I'm that guy now. So it's like, hey, if I'll pull up the blurb or I'll send you a link where you can find the information.
Yeah.
And I encourage
Yeah,
you
yeah,
to
yeah.
just read up on it
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
educate yourself before you out here looking crazy, asking us questions. And it's just like, this is public information. All you got to do is just type it in just as quickly as I typed it in and looked at it. That's all you got to do. So, I try to stay polite as possible with that
Sure,
transaction,
sure,
but it
sure.
just it gets a little out of hand sometimes when people just asking so much. And so we got
N-
another question.
Another question in the studio. Let's go with that question.
Awesome.
As an investor, can I take a cash out refinance on all my properties at the same time?
Now, that's a great question.
Oh,
That's a great question. So,
wow. That
as an
was loaded.
yeah, as an
That was
investor,
loaded. That was loaded.
that is
Wow.
absolutely correct. So,
Wow.
yes, I want to say yes, you can.
Wow.
As long as
You can?
yes, you can. Absolutely, you can do multiple transactions at the same time on different homes.
So if I got 4 rental properties
Yeah,
and it's equity in all 4, because obviously you're going to look at each one independently,
that's right.
to assess the equity.
That's right.
You're telling me simultaneously.
It's at the same time. Yep.
Wow.
It's called you can do a double closing, you can do a triple closing, you can do a quadruple closing. I personally have a lot of experience with double closings. That's where you have two houses that are closing at the same time. Two transactions happening on the same day. One is based off the other's
Okay, so
completion.
I'm gonna throw this in. It's a layered on top of that studio question.
Mhm,
So let's say I have 2 properties that have equity in them, rental,
mhm,
and I want to pull the equity
mhm,
so I could use the equity to go buy a home
mhm,
simultaneously.
mhm.
So that means as I'm drawing out
Yep,
of those,
yep.
closing on those,
That's right.
I want to purchase a home,
Mhm.
maybe not in the same week, but in a relative time,
Yeah.
uh, to use that money.
Yep,
Can I use that money like that
yep.
to go and buy a new home
Mhm.
that I want to buy.
That's right. And to one up on that, we did that transaction a couple days ago where my client, he had his home already and he wanted to move into another property. He wanted to pull money from that current property, which was free and clear. So he was able to take out up to 75% because it becomes an investment instead of a primary.
Wow.
He was able to take out 75% of whatever the value
Wow.
was, close that house first, get the check from that closing, and then a week later he purchases his next house, which both of them were under contract at the same time. All we had to do was stagger the closing dates so that we can get the money from one transaction, hold it in title, or send it to the client, and then he would be able to send his money to the closing table for the next purchase, which happened that week after. So,
Wow.
we
Wow.
just completed that transaction a couple days ago, and it went very smoothly.
Wow.
You know what you're doing. You got the right team in place. It can happen. And then one thing else I want to say about that, the reason why you can do 3 to 4 to 5 properties at the same time if you're considering
Wow.
a cash out refinance as an investor is because each property has a potential tenant that's going to live there. So whatever the
Oh,
rentals
yeah,
are
yeah.
for each
It
home,
counts as
it
income.
counts as income and it will offset any mortgage payment that you're about to get
Mm.
because of the cash out refi. So
Wow.
that's why you are able to, because all we have to do is document the fact that, hey, I have a lease that's starting soon with a tenant, or I have a tenant that's already in here paying me this amount of money. So that comes into your file as positive money and positive credit. And so we'll use that to offset the mortgage that you're about to obtain from that cash out refi.
Wow. Go,
So
go.
We
Let's
got
go.
another question.
Let's
It
go
was
to
only
questions.
3 questions. How did we get
We
I was
got.
like,
Let's go. Let's go.
but
Let's go.
on top of that, so if I'm an investor and I'm not in a house as a first time home buyer, do I still get those privileges as a first time home buyer? So if I want to go out and buy a home, I can still have first time home buyer privileges?
Yes. Yes. So the question is, can you still be a first-time home buyer if you already bought an investment property and you want to benefit from first-time home buyer programs, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
answer is yes, because it's going to be registered as an investment property on your credit report. It's also going to come with a lease
Wow.
or a tenant. And so the moment that you go to buy a primary unit, you would automatically qualify because you're a primary buyer, meaning you're going to live in that house. The other one you don't live in, and you have documentation that proves you don't live in that house. So the moment you go and say, "Hey, I want to
Wow.
buy a
Wow.
primary,"
Wow.
then
Wow.
you automatically become a
Wow.
first-time home buyer at that point to take advantage of first-time home buyer benefits.
So listen, here's what we're gonna do. We gonna have to do a part two, probably about a part five on
Yeah.
this one.
I think this is part 2 or part 3.
This is about like part three.
Okay.
We've been on three different times, but I mean, but we've covered a lot of. I'm talking specifically on cash out,
Yeah.
because it has so many different variables.
Yes, it does. We
Um,
didn't even talk about HELOCs and
right?
why
Yeah. See,
HELOCs and home equity loans are 2 different things, so
well, and there it is. There, so we that's what the next show with Daniel. We're gonna talk about the HELOC,
that's
which is
the
the
elephant in the room.
home
Everybody talking
equity
about
line of
HELOCs.
credit. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about that.
Mhm.
Mr. Producer, I want you to pull up Daniel's information. Daniel, talk about how they can reach you, contact information. Certainly, we're going to pull up the NFM lending site so
Mhm.
that they can see that,
Absolutely.
and then
So
so they can reach you.
yeah, so right now, you all can reach me obviously on my cell phone, 443-286-9072. Do not play on my phone. That's a very serious line. So don't just call me with the nonsense. Also my website here, provided by my lending company. It's nfmlending.com /DMAC, D, my first name, and Mac, MACK. And you can connect with me there. There's my email. And if you scroll down, Mr. Producer, there's reviews. These reviews are in real time, and you'll be able to see
Hey, I know that now.
clients that are working with me in real time and what they're saying about me, my services, and what my team
Know
can
that name.
provide, for you should know all of these people,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chris, I know all
So
of them because we
yeah,
need the homeowner
and
insurance
that's
for me.
right. That's right. This is
Yeah,
my guy. I send him all my deals, and we have a great partnership. And
absolutely.
if
Yeah,
you connect with me, I'm only going to connect you with powerful people that are able to get the job done. Because at the end of the day, that becomes a resource for me, and obviously the reputation precedes us at this point, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of people and making sure that they feel comfortable and they know what's going on with their transaction.
I love it.
We over communicate during the transaction, and I'm pretty sure you do as well.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Just because people have a lot of questions, it's the most important thing that you can buy in a home, and it's the most expensive thing you can buy in a lifetime. So, for that reason, we do some hand holding and we walk you through step by step. So, this is going to be the best way to connect with me. You can follow my social media as well on IG. It's DMAC the lender, and on Facebook, it's just Daniel Mack.
and even the more, just so that they know how deep the relationship is between the Smith firm and you. They can go right to the Smith firm and agency, and when they come right to our site, um, they can see that that relationship we have, it allows them to come right to our site, and then
Mhm.
they scroll down, we actually have you right there
There you
on
go.
the page
Hmm.
with your contact numbers there and all of that. And so your
Yeah,
email address, we got to update that contact though, because
yeah, that's
I know
yeah.
we've there's some numbers that have been added. So we're going to make sure we update that. But the email there is definitely on the cell number. Is that the current cell or is that the
Yeah, so that one just has to be updated
got to
to the
update that
one.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
we'll update the cell, but that the email is definitely
Email
accurate.
definitely, the website definitely.
And
And
just so you know, when you go to the site, if you click on the site, if you click that link, well, if you don't know, if you don't know his site, not a problem. You just come right to our page.
yep,
It's going to take you
take you
right
right
there.
there.
It's going
Yeah.
to take you right there.
And please use me as a resource. A lot of times people feel like those are dumb questions or I don't want to sound stupid. But please, talk to a professional, talk to someone who has experience in
Absolutely.
what you're trying to do,
Absolutely.
and utilize your resources and your partners because that's going to help you to make the best financial decision moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we have enjoyed being with you all on tonight. Obviously, our information is here. Daniel's information is right here.
Yeah, right here.
So literally, you can just go ahead and kind of log that information so that if you have some questions, you'll be able to contact him directly, ask your questions. He's literally just said, "Hey, use me as a resource. I want
Mhm.
to be able to answer your questions in real time and help you to make quality decisions
That's right.
as you are looking to either buy your first home, buy your first investment property, move from an investment property into primary property. There's a lot more, and we're going to talk more. I'm actually going to bring Daniel back before the month is out because the HELOC CHELOC conversation is a very popular conversation that we definitely need to have because they need to understand how to negotiate the differences between the two. So
Hmm.
we're definitely going to do that. So he's actually going to come back before the month is
Be
out
my pleasure.
so that we can engage in that conversation. Listen, it's been great. I've enjoyed being with you on tonight, and you'll be able to view this on our social media platform. It's going to be on Daniel's social media platform. It'll also be on Clear TV Productions. You'll be able to see it on television if you have television. You'll be able to see it on Clear TV Productions. You'll be able to Google that on Boxcast and see us live if you want to view it that way. Again, I've thoroughly enjoyed being with you on tonight. This has been TNT Talk with your host, Bishop Dr. Tyrone Smith, and my guy, Daniel Mack from NFM Lending. Want everybody to enjoy your time. Make sure that you are being smart with your
That's
money.
right.
Let your money talk. But as your money is talking, listen to your money. Listen to your money. Don't try to do more than your money actually is saying.
Yeah.
Be wise with your money, and we'll see you soon. Take care of everybody.
Take care.